studies at the Koforidua Technical University. That's not all he does. He's also the executive director for ADRRI. Prof, good afternoon.
Rather good afternoon.
I hope you're fine.
I'm doing very well.
Viewers of Pan-African TV, particularly the National Agenda, say they value your contributions to this show. And the fact that you don't take us lightly at all. I mean, whenever we call on you and you have the opportunity.
I will lay surface.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's an honor.
Yeah.
As proclaimed, a national agenda where issues about national concern are raised and tackled. And so when you don't place value on it, then you don't place value on social cohesion and national development. And I think it's very important that we always try to come around and share little concerns and how we can proffer maybe solutions to deal with those things. So I'm grateful and I'm humbled.
Right. Let me remind you that we are live on Facebook at www.facebook.com/PanAfricanTelevision. Also, you can join us on YouTube at youtube.com/PanAfricanTelevision if you can't watch from your TV sets. Be a part of today's conversation. Let us know what your thoughts are. There's a lot happening, but this particular issue is very important for our national discourse. It is very important that it should be a national agenda. That is why we have found it extremely, important once again to discuss it on this show this afternoon. Like I earlier stated, there's been repeated outbreaks of xenophobic attacks in South Africa. This is not 2026 is not the first time we are hearing of this a very unfortunate wave of events. It happened, I remember, in 2023. As far back as 2013, there have been xenophobic attacks in South Africa. And who are the sufferers of these attacks? Ghanaians, Malawians, Zimbabweans, Nigerians, Ethiopians, Somalians. I mean, these people go there to find a living or to eke out a living, or if to say for greener pastures is the right expression, but they leave their countries and then migrate to South Africa for better living conditions. And when they go, it's not as if when they go and just sit on the streets and wait for manna to fall from heaven. It's not as if the sky in South Africa is different from the sky of other countries, and so it rains, food over there. No, they try their best possible to look for jobs, and they work really hard so that they can feed, so that they can fend for themselves, and then also repatriate some of the monies they earn as income to their families abroad. And so this is what they do, and lots of these people there are in South Africa legitimately. So it's not as though they are illegal immigrants. No, they have migrated to South Africa. They have the papers to prove that they used the right routes to be there, and these people are usually very law-abiding, citizens. I don't remember ever hearing of a Ghanaian national going against the law in South Africa and being reported in any newspaper or non-traditional media. I don't recall. So these are people who are law-abiding. These are people who are earning an honest living. It's not as though they are involved in some nefarious activities to feed for themselves. No, they have the papers, they are there legitimately, and they are eking out a living. And so there are many questions that we'll be asking on the show today. Of course, if conditions were better here, then I'm not sure that people will be traveling to South Africa. Or if conditions were the best here on the continent, then I'm not sure that people will be traveling to South Africa for greener pastures. And so that is one. Then we're also looking at the fact that Africa is striving to become one monolithic entity. Until until some years ago, Africa was just Africa. You wouldn't go somewhere and this side is Rwanda or Zimbabwe. There were no demarcations. We're just one, continent, until some white men, in a gathering, in a meeting, decided that they were going to share our continent amongst them, themselves. You take this portion, you take this part, you take this part. And that's why we are divided. Aside that, we are all one people. We all come from the same, or we all belong to the same race. And when the people of South Africa were facing the throes of apartheid, it took some countries like Ghana to help in order to put it to an end in 1994. And so why should this be happening? Especially when we want to promote African cohesion. This appears, or this obviously is a slap in the face. And of course, there are many questions to be asked as far as this particular topic is concerned. I'm going to start with Professor Jamal. Prof, I'm sure you have traveled wide across the African continent, and I know there are many legs of this conversation to be had, but how heartbreaking is this development as far as the African narrative is concerned?
Let me say good afternoon to your viewers, and as usual, good afternoon to my colleagues at Koforidua Tenkara University and my workers at ADRI. Without them, we wouldn't be talking about growth and nurturing as we have received from some of them. And then good afternoon to the entire nation, for whom some of the duties that we perform here are supposed to be the ones dissecting and also seeing the way forward for the growth of Ghana. In December, I was in South Africa. In fact, I was in Rwanda, and then from Rwanda, I went to South Africa. From South Africa, I was back to Rwanda because of the hospitality nature of Rwanda. In fact, South Africa, I got to one airport. I didn't leave the airport because even within South Africa and within the airport, they announced that crime rate is higher. Within the airport, they will tell you crime rates in South Africa are very high. Within the surroundings of the airport, crime rate is very high, and that you should not even leave your luggage. You see, funny thing happened. Whilst I was seated, three guys came to ask me. As we were seated, one sat here, one sat closer, and another one sat behind. And they were virtually just in their shorts. And so I asked them, "What do you want?" The other guy was speaking to the other guy in their language, and I also started speaking my language, so we don't understand each other's language. And I told them that they should get out from this place, and they left. So I had to transit from that airport to another airport. Then I get to Cape Town, where I was supposed to do some conference for some days, about a week, and I came back. When I came, I was discussing this with some colleagues, and I said, we're not safe in Africa, because many have decided to go to South Africa because of the basking nature of South Africa and the fact that there are some economic opportunities. And at the same time, we are Africans.
Yeah.
Look, when you travel to where we have white-dominated areas in this part of our world, in fact, there were times my suit that I was asked to strip off the suit. Not once, not twice. And so because of that, I don't carry with me anything that will lead to suspicion. So when you are black, you have an issue, especially when you are traveling to where people who are white dominated and they do not have that emotional intelligence and then that level of empathy to understand that someone could have different color. Then why the same color? And so the issue of South Africa permeates the fabrics of Africa, and it serves to get into the core of our being as one people who think that they are promulgating issues that will lead to integration, either monetary integration, economic integration, security integration, and the minds of people, integrating the minds of the being. In fact, the actions and inactions of the people of South Africa, the government of South Africa, the profiteering, If you go to South Africa, you understand what I'm talking about, profiteering. The profiteering of people in South Africa actually sits in the core of one African unity and disguises the notion of African unity. The fact that people in this particular part of the continent who were privileged and are still privileged to having some level of social amenities, for which I think drive other people towards there, is going to shatter the dreams of what we all stood for as far as Africa is concerned. And so it's an eyesore. In fact, there are even some territories in South Africa, within South Africa, even within citizens, there are some areas are no-go areas. I wouldn't want to sit on this platform and mention them. And because of that, some of us are even very scared. Not even about only Ghanaian businessmen. We're talking about an innocent traveler who is just going there to do conference. A business person who genuinely go there to do business. And somebody who genuinely want to take vacation. Somebody within an hour, within a minute, no less than 10 people are killed in South Africa. And there are certain, let me call them states or counties, when you go there, the death toll is serious. But there are questions that we will leave to ask as we go further. What is the people of South Africa thinking towards African integration? Are they seeing other African people are just people with the same common destiny and the same common mind? Or they are just thinking that they living in that enclave that ends the world? I think the best should be something we should be looking out for. And so for me personally, I am deeply worried and sad, because over several decades we have always been told that Africans can man themselves. Then we talk about the concept of Pan-Africanism, where we think that at a broader focus we could bring the thoughts and minds of people together into such a way that we will appreciate the fact that we can live in a decent way, we can control our affairs decently, and we can allow our people to freely have that kind of decent life they want to have. But unfortunately, the issues in South Africa are not just what people are seeing. It is a failed system. That failed system is not attributable to only these people who are doing this barbaric attack, but it is attributable to a wider society for which people profiteer within this concept of xenophobic attack, and people get some benefit out of that. And at the end of the day, there is no need that they want to even annoy those people, and the state is seen to be pretending to be acting. Where people are being attacked and they are policemen and nothing happens. Is the state acting? A slow pace in even arresting people. Nobody has been arrested. And so for me, preliminary, I would say that it's going to further strengthen the argument that a black man cannot control himself, especially when it is even in the soil of South Africa in 1993, before 1993 and 1994, when these thoughts were exhibited that even if you leave them, they can't even manage themselves, and that they needed to be crashed into KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, and all those states so that they could be housed like animals and put at one place. But in a more dramatic situation, you would see that what has been exhibited or what they do is so sad that you can't even understand. The very person who is running, ask him, does he have a skill? And my brother, if we will go into you come to understand that they are not employable. Majority, over 70-80% of the people are not employable. Employability talks about someone who has a skill, someone who has the ability to contribute to growth if certain job categories are advertised. The question is, do they have those skills? And so violence has become something innate, and that will also blame on the state because of the level of apartheid regime some of them have gone through. They internalize violence as something that is normal, and that is how it is. State functions well when we all decide not to cause crime, right? And so if the state hasn't done very much in terms of dealing with some of these things, and the state allows people to come out of these difficulties, this is what we are going to see, and this is what we are seeing. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. We've seen some of the videos show on our screen. Very heartbreaking, if you ask me. Very, very gory scenes over there. It beggars belief that a human being of sound mind, a human being of sound mind would decide that he will inflict such level of violence on his brother. You saw the video. If you can play, please, let's play the video again. See how this man was, I mean, unprovoked. It's not as if the person was insulting him, or this person wasn't even fighting back. You understand? He wasn't even fighting back. He just was just there and then, by virtue of the fact that there's somebody who was working and not South African. That alone was annoying him. So you see a gray-haired man beating somebody young enough probably to even be his son, and very, very pathetic scene there. It beggars belief that Africans would do these things to their fellow Africans. And so when when the crocodile is able to eat its own eggs, imagine what it will do to another animal. And so that's what we are seeing on our screens over there. Let me now come to Mr. Suma. The South African president released a statement, and I'm going to go into it. He says, dear fellow South Africans, the recent violent protests and criminal acts directed at foreign nationals in parts of our country do not represent the views of South Africa's people nor reflect our government's policy. These are the acts of opportunists who are exploiting the legitimate grievances, particularly those of the poor, under the false guise of community activism. Some of these people are assuming functions that only state officials are permitted to perform, including stopping people to check identification and conducting searches of private property. Such lawlessness will not be tolerated, regardless of who the perpetrators or victims are. At the same time, as a society, we need to deal decisively and within the law with the challenge of illegal immigration, which risks our social stability, governance, and national security. Undocumented migration places strain on healthcare, housing, and municipal services, particularly in poor communities. It distorts the labor market. In a country with higher unemployment, some employers are exploiting undocumented, cheaper foreign labor over hiring citizens and paying them legal wages. Not only is this fueling social tension, it is actively undermining our labor protection regime and eroding the hard-won rights of workers. In tackling illegal migration, we are balancing our constitutional and international obligations with safeguarding national security. The Borders Management Authority and the Defense Force are strengthening border security and combating illicit cross-border activity. We commend the BMA for successfully intercepting some 450,000 people trying to enter South Africa illegally in the past financial year. As we strengthen our borders, we continue to reform our migration and citizenship framework. So my only problem about this press statement is the fact that he uses just a paragraph to talk about the real issue, the xenophobic attacks on other citizens, and this is just like half of the statement I've read. The remainder of it has got to do with the fact that people are migrating to South Africa. There are undocumented immigrants over there and who are taking people's jobs. So that is the main focus on this press statement. And so my problem is that, look, Mr. Suma, there hasn't been any decisive, and I don't know if you agree, it appears there has been no decisive action by the South African government, and I'm not talking about only this South African government, by past South African governments from 2013 to this one. There has been no decisive action in dealing with their people, these criminals who take the laws into their own hands and inflict misery and mayhem on nationals of other countries. It appears that no decisive action has been taken relative to that. So what do we do with this kind of statement from the South African President, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa? I don't see, the relevance of such a statement when in reality the people who do these things, who are engaged in these things, do not face the full rigors of the law. Would you also fault the South African leadership for that?
Well, first of all, let me extend my warm good afternoon to all your cherished viewers, to Doc, yourself, and to your entire production team this afternoon. To start this conversation, I want to make it clear that South Africans, the civilian society, is becoming a barbaric and an uncivilized group of individuals. They are becoming barbaric in the sense that they've refused to appreciate and understand that the world has become a global village, as we have always put it. In as much as in the past, this is not the first time a country is trying to expel other citizens within their territory. It has happened before. Didn't Nigerians sack Ghanaians back to Ghana? Or you've forgotten that the Ghana must go era? Nigerians sacked all Ghanaians back to Ghana. Yeah. In the same vein, I know we've also sacked them back to their countries before. So this issue of territorial integrity protection, where we are of the view that this is our territory, we will not allow influx of other country citizens to come and virtually take over our entire system, it is no news. Now, even in Ghana, don't we have laws that protect indigenous businesses that are supposed to say that if you are a foreigner and you come to Ghana, you cannot participate in certain activities in this country? Isn't that the case? It is there. It is in our laws. But it is only here that sometimes we try to be a bit flexible with some of these things. But to some extent, we sometimes even go after them, try to get their shops locked and all this, in trying to protect the interests of indigenous, local Ghanaian businesses. So whatever is happening in South Africa from 2008 till to date, that they are of the view that other African citizens have flooded their country, choking them out of their employment space, taking over their entire economic activities. Therefore, there is a huge amount of agitation among the citizens of South Africa. I cannot grudge them. I cannot grudge them because I can only blame our leaders, all our other African leaders, who have failed their citizens miserably, for which reason they have to start emigrating to South Africa. Which country is South Africa? When Ghana was Ghana then, in the days of Kwame Nkrumah, that we were the ones even giving that protection to all their right activists. Who was South Africans? Where were they? In a political ecosystem, they were nowhere. They were just a group of people who were just being underpinned by the apartheid or the white minority. Now you had people like Nelson Mandela and co, who came to Ghana in 1959. There were several others who came here. They even came to join the Kwame Nkrumah Institute of Ideology or something. They were all being trained. They were taken through military guerrilla warfare and so forth and so on, to go back and go and fight the apartheid system. My only concern about this is the approach. I remember vividly not too long ago, we backed some Nigerians in this country and took them out. You remember?
Yes.
Because we felt that they were, what were they doing?
For the want of a better word, they were becoming a nuisance.
They were becoming a nuisance
on our streets.
On our streets, and having them around. What did we do as a country? We backed them away. I got my point. So whatever the South Africans they are agitating over, it is not out of place. But the problem is the approach. That is the only thing that is problematic. Because you see, they have come to realize that even in Ghana today, when a person falls sick, where does he think of going first? He wants to go and seek medical attention in South Africa. We were here when that unfortunate incident happened, that Dr. Omani Buama and co died. What did we do? Basic forensic, what do we call it? DNA. We couldn't do it. We had to take it to South Africa for South Africa to get it done. So you should understand that their system is much more better, for which reason all your citizens in Africa are running to South Africa. So if they don't protect their system, if they don't protect the architecture of their system, look, let me tell you, before you say Jack, you wake up one morning and there's no Ghanaian in the streets of Accra. Everybody has gone to South Africa. Would they be able to accommodate this influx? They wouldn't. So I want to believe that they have come to realize that your other African leaders who are supposed to create that ambient environment for your citizens to grow, to develop, to seek medical attention, to seek health, to seek education, to seek everything that they have been given, we have decided to do the opposite of everything, and we are quick to run to South Africa. Now, I am into travel business. I know several Ghanaians that today, since the waiver was given, that we no longer require a visa to get to South Africa. Do you know the number of Ghanaians who have traveled to South Africa and refused to come back? They refuse to come back because when they get there, they think the environment there kinds of sweet Europe. Because you see, the South Africans themselves didn't develop South Africa. It was the whites who developed South Africa. Even in South Africa, it is not all the states that are fully developed. The blacks themselves are confined in jurisdiction that is not worth living in at all. So now they all go to Durban, they all go to Joburg, they all go to Cape Town, they all go to Pretoria, they all go to the high profile urban areas seeking for the same job, which is not in other provinces that they can get. Just like when you come to Ghana today, there's no factory in Bono, there's no factory in Volta, there's no factory in all this region. We can, if you want to do proper analysis, we can bet and say that we only have all our factories in Greater Accra.
So living in those places is a punishment.
It's a punishment. If you go to Bono today, as a country, we don't have one single functioning factory in Bono or Ahafo or in Western North or in Western Upper East. So where do you expect your citizens to get a job from? We are all running to Accra. So even realize that Accra has become so clouded that even Accra, we can no longer live in Accra. So I am still of the view that until we try to solve our own problems, try to create that ambient environment for people to find jobs to do, people to get the opportunity to exploit, bring out the best that is within them, they will be going to South Africa. Because somebody don't have the money to go to Europe. Why? Today you see a lot of Ghanaians running to Dubai. What exactly is in Dubai? What exactly is in Dubai? But Ghanaians are flooding Dubai every blessed day, because when you get to Dubai, the chances are that you can get some basic cleaning job to do, you can get some basic simple jobs to do that can pay you about 3,000 to 4,000. When teachers in Ghana, their salary is not even up to 4,000 cedis. A cleaner is taking 4,000 cedis in Dubai. In Ghana, a professional teacher who has been teaching for the past 15 years, salary is not up to 4,000 Ghana cedis. So why are you expecting them to be motivated enough to remain in this country? So for me, I don't want to be the one seated here today and blame the South Africans entirely for what is going on there. Like I said, my challenge is the approach for which somebody is boxing somebody as if that the person are going to take their wife. And you know, some of the reasons for which they are misbehaving is saying that even our wives, our women, are no longer paying attention to us. They are paying attention to foreign citizens. So if people have started to realize that even our women, you come and take them away from us, you want them to sit back aloof, they will fight you back tooth and nail. So if they are there and they are beating them up, it is not any fault of theirs for which reason they have gone to South Africa seeking greener pasture. But what is really green in South Africa? For which reason Ghanaians are going to South Africa to seek greener pasture? What is really green in there? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. So if we want to have this conversation, let's situate it in a proper context and tell our African leaders that the responsibility lies on you. Don't sit back. You do nothing about their plight. They go to South Africa. Now there's chaos there. You say you are going to bring 138 of them back to Ghana. What are they coming to do? Are you just bringing them for the purpose of bringing them, or when they come, you are going to give them a seed capital of about 20,000 each for them to go into proper business? Is that what you are going to do? Or you bring them back and tomorrow they turn around and tell you, we didn't even ask you to bring them? You remember when the Israelites wanted to move from Egypt, when Moses wanted to lead them, when they got to the wilderness, what happened? They said, oh, Moses, if you know, you should have left us in Egypt, because in Egypt we have good food to eat. But now we are in the wilderness and we can't even get food to eat. The same way you are going to bring them, they'll turn around and tell you we didn't even ask you to bring them because you have brought us and our plight has become more worsened. So as a matter of fact, South Africans need to understand that we are in a global village. Everybody has the right to go to other jurisdictions. Nobody prevents you from doing that because it's a liberal environment we find ourselves in. But nevertheless, if you feel threatened by the influx of foreigners, you should not take the law into your own hands by trying to bully them and assault them. And if you listen to the statement made by the South Africa president, you have really hit the nail on the head. That he only gave a gist of complaint that what is happening there is unlawful. It does not really demonstrate the character of South Africans because they are accommodating, they are lovely, and you realize that even Prof mentioned that when he went to South Africa, they were very hospitable towards him.
He said
Rwanda was more hospitable than South Africa. Are you getting? That means that South Africa is already a hostile environment. But if you hear their president, he said that the people have come to take their job, and because the people who are the job creators are employing cheap labor. Are you getting a point? Which means that even their minimum wage that is supposed to pay a South African citizen, instead of employing a South African citizen and pay him the minimum wage which is stated by law, they've decided to bypass the law and go and employ foreign migrants. For which reason their own citizens are not getting jobs to do. And then again, you realize that he did not condemn the fact that maybe the police are watching aloof and all these brutalities are happening. Because for all you know, the elite in South Africa who are not on the streets participating in this barbaric activity, they are the ones fueling it from behind. It is just like how we have issues in Ghana where there are political figures who can fuel all manner of demonstrations, but they themselves, they are not part of the demonstrators. So what is happening in South Africa is being fueled by the elite. But the only challenge that the elites are not showing their face and they are using the other downtrodden citizens to be fronting these barbaric attacks. So all I can say for now is that if we really want to solve this problem, then it is a two sides of the divide. Don't just sit back and blame the South Africans, but blame yourselves. If you blame yourself and you've come to realize that we have not done the right thing, we have not created the environment for our citizens to thrive and bring out the best in them, for which reason they are running to South Africa, so be it. Remember recently, I just saw it today that Ibrahim Mahama, the guy who was accosted in South Africa publicly, I just heard that Ibrahim Mahama has given him 200,000 Ghana cedis. Promised to set up a distribution, cement distribution business for him. Is that a blessing in disguise? It could be a blessing in disguise because ABR is in Ghana, he wouldn't have ever seen 200,000. But this incident that happened in South Africa, that has been the conduit which God has used to do what? Take away all his problems. So as a matter of fact, let us be fair to the subject. And let the South African understand that in as much as we disagree with the approach, I, the likes of me, Richard, I still believe that they need to fight for their rights. And they need to protect their whole system because I know who we are. And if nobody fights you head on, I'm telling you that if South Africa allow themselves, you will wake up one morning and there will be nobody on the street of Accra, everybody around to South Africa. Right. Which is not proper.
All right, I'll stay with you. I'll stay with you, Mr. Suma. I have some questions. I very much agree with your concerns, especially when you say that if we had bettered our lot, if we had bettered our country, our people wouldn't be leaving our shores, you know, our people wouldn't be trading Ghana for South Africa in terms of, you know, seeking, you know, a better livelihood. But then, you made a comment which was very important. You talked about the approach. You spoke about these Nigerians, you know, some of these Nigerians who we know purposely the reason for which they are brought into this country. Children is that they come and then they put them on the streets to beg. I have personally seen, it's not somebody telling me, I have seen about 50 children in a bus being dropped at a bus stop, and it was just them being dropped at a bus stop one very early morning. It was around 5:30 a.m. So that is their job. They are dropped at a bus stop and then they go about begging for alms. And I mean, rightly, it's a nuisance. Sometimes you are driving, your window is tinted, but they'll just come and do like this, you know, and then ask you for money. So, but what did we do to these people? We put them in an aeroplane and took them back to their country. We didn't beat them. You understand? We just put them. We actually went for them, put them in an aeroplane. In fact, they came by bus, but they even went back, you know, with a better form of transportation. And then we took them, we repatriated them, you know, back to their countries. And so that is even Ghana and Niger. Ghana and South Africa, like you said, we've enjoyed bilateral ties since the 1950s, since the days of Osajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So for nothing at all, that relationship should be there. So shouldn't, in as much as I agree 100% with you that, look, territorial integrity ought to be respected. I believe that people should not come to Ghana and then come and take over our jobs, especially when there are competent, equally competent people and qualified people who are here to do their job. But there's a case where somebody is more than qualified, has the documents, the person is working, and you come and say that the person should leave. And I'm asking you this question, I'm on you still, because right now when you go to South Africa, you go to ESTCOURT, I think it's one province in South Africa, Ghanaian businesses and businesses of other nationals have been given a 21-day ultimatum by the mayor of that province to leave. They have the documents. Now, because of the agitations of your people, you are pressured to take a decision that affects somebody who has done absolutely nothing wrong. There are people who are working here in Ghana legitimately. There are Nigerians working here in Ghana legitimately. Their papers are up to date. We can't just wake up and say, because we want to, you know, satisfy the whims and caprices of demonstrating Ghanaians, we just go and then sack these people, whether or not they have the right documents to be in our country. Isn't that wrong?
You see, the issue is that I agree with you, and I made it clear in my submission, my earlier submission, that what the South Africans are doing is a demonstration of barbaric activities. That means they are demonstrating to us that they are becoming an uncivilized group of people. But when you are going to set up a business in a country, it is governed by laws.
Yes.
So, in establishing those businesses, is there any law that protects foreign businesses operating in South Africa? If there are any laws that protect foreign businesses in South Africa, and somebody wants to flout that law by ejecting them from a particular province, then they can file a legal suit.
So yes, so I mean, not to interject. So this is the argument of the High Commission, of Ghana's High Commissioner to South Africa. So they are seeking legal redress, and the argument is that foreign nationals legally residing and operating businesses in South Africa are protected by law.
Of course.
And local vigilante style intimidation cannot supersede constitutional processes.
No,
it appears that is becoming the order of the day.
Which is wrong.
Yes, that is becoming the order of the day, to the very extent that someone who occupies a political position I want to find the right word. It's ceding to those pressures, as he has ceded to those pressures, those illegal pressures from his people, just to satisfy. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm coming to address that point. That is why I'm saying that today, even in Ghana, the constitution says that sovereignty resides in the people. Isn't that the case?
Yes.
The same way, perhaps in South Africa, sovereignty resides in the people, but that does not mean that there is no law and order. So if the citizens want to abuse their sovereignty by using vigilantism to attack foreign business, for instance, in Ghana, when you're operating business in Ghana, once you have your business operating permit, you have your residential permit, you have your work permit, you must have a permit that allows you to work. You must have a residence permit. So it's two things. Residence permit is different from a work permit. So you can have a residence permit, but the permit does not allow you to work. Yeah. But if you are in South Africa and you have a business in South Africa, the document on which you are standing, does that document even permit you to establish a business in South Africa? If the document permits you to establish a business in South Africa, then the laws of South Africa now protect you. But if what you are holding does not permit you to operate a business in South Africa, and they have come to realize that most of you are operating in South Africa without the relevant documentation, and they now want to eject you from their province, then they have a case. But if the document you are using allows you to operate a business, not even forget, even if you have a permit in Ghana, a work permit, that does not even allow you to establish your own business. You can have the work permit that allows you to be employed. For instance, I am an expatriate. I'm a Nigerian. I've been employed by telecom company in Ghana, like let's say MTN. Once I come to Ghana, I must have a work permit that allows me to work at MTN. But you see, a Nigerian can come from Nigeria working in MTN. By the time you realize he has set up a spare parts business, or before you realize he has set up an electronics business, bringing in TV, bringing in radio, bringing in all manner of electronic appliances from Nigeria to come and sell in Ghana, does the law allow him to do so? Obviously not. So if today there's an agitation and there is a high demand for you to be expatriated back to your country, we will ask you to move together with your business. So if the High Commission is taking the legal remedies to ensure that all who are being ejected from ESTCOURT, they have the legal relevant document that allow them to establish businesses in South Africa, let the law take its own course. But if they don't have that legitimate right in order for them to operate a business according to the Constitution of South Africa, then that one they have not gone contrary to any of their legal provisions. But again, why are we not looking at the fact of the matter? The fact of the matter is that many African leaders, we have failed our citizens, and it must be established that it is the fail that we have failed them is the reason why they are not finding headway in this country. I am asking, and I'll continue to ask, you are a journalist, mention one subsector of the Ghanaian economy that we are self-dependent and self-sufficient in. Mention it. Hitherto, the 2026 xenophobic attack which Ghanaians have been roping, the 2008 one, they didn't attack Ghanaians. They never attacked any Ghanaian. 2015, they insulated Ghanaians from all manner of attack. They were going after the Zimbabweans, they were going after the Nigerians, the Somalians and co. They never hurt anybody from Ghana. It is 2026. This edition.
I remember 2023 or so, 2022, Ghanaians were attacked.
No, they were attacked Ghanaians.
Yeah.
2023 they did.
They did, yeah.
Even when it's starting from the formative year 2, they did.
They did.
Fact, it was not so grievous like what we.
No, you can't identify Ghanaians
except that, well, perhaps except that this one has gained more traction. I don't know. Like
the first one, did we evacuate? Did we go to the extent to the fact that we need to evacuate our citizens from South Africa?
It depends on whoever
government policy and whatever rule government. Well, should we wait till one citizen or 10 citizens be affected?
And also to be evacuated. Exactly, and also we are looking at the job that the current foreign minister is doing.
Yes.
And now he has taken a different loss. Would be one life too.
We are having a conversation. That's why I have to play the devil's advocate, because you see, when you heard Prof's submission,
yes,
he vehemently opposed any form of attack that is being meted to Ghanaians, which I support that argument fully. I have not deviated from that. But again, my part of the argument is that
our leaders are not leading Ghana well, right?
Basically, so to put.
But I wanted to ask a question because you stayed on that.
No, feel free.
I had people who are not South Africans. I have somebody German, a German friend who lives in South Africa. German is quite developed. In fact, German has even sophisticated infrastructure and social services. But the person prefers South Africa. In fact, the day I was coming, I even have a picture on the house. That's what I was just going through. I have met a friend who is a citizen of United Kingdom, right? But she has been living like 10 years in South Africa. And do you know what the job she does? She does only private painting and works other private jobs part-time. She does her private painting and works other private job part-time. My challenge is not just only about countries or governments reneged in providing social services and other expected growth and development needs for their people. What about freedom of someone wanting to move? Let me give another example. I was in UK, Heathrow Airport. I had met a Ghanaian who was cleaning at the airport, just a janitor. But the same janitorial work, when you ask them to do it at the airport, they're not going to do it. So people feel that there are other minor jobs I could do outside my home region or home country. Yet if you ask them to do it at their church, they will not do it. We can even talk about someone in the southern sector coming to the northern sector to do janitorial services, but within the confines of their place, they will not do, because in terms of labor and employability, we have not actually put in the minds of people that their job doesn't matter. It is the tenor of security that matters. Are you okay? So if someone leaves Ghana and go to South Africa, there could be a mirage of issues. Me personally, I like traveling, and you can ask me when I am able to do 1 or 2 times, just ask for permission and I travel. But we also have some people who feel that they will leave Ghana to other places to travel and be able to make ends meet and bring it back home. But as for governments reneging in dealing with certain aspects of lives which could help in order to the benefit of our people, I think that shouldn't be a justification for people to actually misbehave or behave in a way that is counterintuitive to African solidarity. And so for me, you will see people in South Africa, for example, we have indigenous businessmen who are Indians, okay, who are perhaps holding on to the huge South African employment base. Are you okay? We have people in South Africa who are natives of South Africa who cannot be employed. That is what we call in economics unemployability. They don't have employment. Okay, they don't have that requisite skill to get them employed. And the kind of jobs that are available, they are not ready to do it. And so if you think that someone comes to take your job, there are 3 what we call economic crises that you can find in South Africa. It is either that the state, most of the state resources have been overstretched after apartheid. Most of the state social services have been overstretched in South Africa. 2, there is steaming about 30 to 35% unemployment. That is very known in literature about South Africa. That no matter what you do, these people, unless the structural dysfunctional nature of the state is retooled, they cannot fit in any job. I get in it. And most of them who are chasing people and beating them here and there are in that category of people. And so even if a state decides that, or the government of South Africa decides that they were going to increase jobs availability for people and provide avenues for people to be able to harness these potentials, these people cannot fit the job. Then let's compare that to Ghana. The government of Ghana over the period, we're talking about whatever since the inception of Ghana, and as to whether when they have reneged in their duty to provide a good services we are talking about. Should that be a caveat for someone to malhandle somebody? That should not be the case. The government of Ghana, the people in Ghana, we still have the right to demand good governance. That is 1. 2, we still have the right to demand appropriate social services that could make our life better. But you still have the same people like my brother sitting here who may decide to go to South Africa. Yeah. And the person pays in the house. She left Germany, she was winning, she has all her family. And when I asked her, why do you want to leave Germany? She said, the pressure in the system, it was so much for her. And here she's okay. She has the ability to think and do her painting. And in the night, she works in the club. Right? Now, you see a UK citizen who lives in South Africa, and the question I asked her was, why do you left UK and you came to South Africa? He said, I like Cape Town. Right? And when you see Cape Town and UK, they always look alike. I like Cape Town. And in fact, the job that I am doing here, I am okay. She lives in South Africa 10 years. When you talk about people getting, and when I read the president said respectfully, if the president could sit down and think of. It is poor social systems that creates unemployment gap in South Africa that is causing all of this. 2, we have slow policing. I get it. And the fact that the economy doesn't, the South Africans don't even know that if you don't disbandle vigilantism, it would tend to us. People began to regroup to understand that they don't have hierarchy of layers in terms of social security network, and they infiltrated our national security base to understand that those of them who were there were now being used to perpetrate against our citizens. And you could hear Delta Force, you could hear all Bulldogs, and all those manner of forces. Look, I am telling you, to understand that even it became a hierarchy in some part of Ghana here, that people, this one time ends, another one takes over. You saw them invading our courts. You saw, and I was happy when they realized that President Akufo-Addo realized that that was going to be not just a thorn in his flesh, because they thought it was an advantage. It is going to be a thorn in the flesh of these countries. Is that not it? What then do they do? They have to now enact a law. And do you know that that has brought our index of recognition in terms of Ghana's, the safest city to travel in Ghana, to an index point of 7 basis points. And so sometimes it is not about when the people are right. And to be very fair with you, I'm emotional because the people in South Africa do not have the right to call compliance. It is the state apparatus that has the right to call state compliance. And so if I come and overstay my visa, you don't have the right to ask me to see my visa.
You know, I was actually coming to that, Prof, that, look, the South African government should have records of people who come.
They don't. In fact, South Africa is among the serially unstructured economy you can find in Africa.
So yeah,
to understand, they don't have data on undocumented citizens.
So Mr. Suma, these are some of the issues. Like, I mean, when somebody comes into your country, you should know. You should know that this person who is coming into my country, he has a document, he's supposed to stay for this period of time. If the person is coming to work, you know that this person is coming to work. Yes. These are the kind of jobs that the person can engage in.
Yes.
But in the situation where, let's say for instance, like right now, our High Commissioner is making the argument that these people are documented immigrants and they have the papers, they have businesses that have been registered and they are being protected by South African laws.
Yes.
But just because of that pressure from this vigilante groups and to appeal to their
conscience,
or
their whims and caprices.
Yes, to their whims and caprices, you decide that, look, and these people are not even punished. For me, that is the most important.
That is what I'm telling you, that the state has decided not to deal with these people.
Yes, I agree with the point that you are raising. That when you look at this issue, you just put that against what is going on in America with ICE.
Yes.
The similarities are the same.
Yes.
But just that with the ICE one, it's a state-sanctioned program.
Yes.
That we are expelling all undocumented citizens.
Yes.
Undocumented citizens, we are expelling you from US, which is a state-sanctioned,
which I agree with that,
which is in the right direction. So, like what Prof is saying, whatever is happening in South Africa, it shouldn't be left to the individuals to satisfy their own whims and caprices, because maybe the citizens are also of the view that the state is not doing enough to protect their interest, for which reason they have decided to take the law into their own hands,
punish them by voting them out.
But you see, South Africa's system is so entrenched. It's not like Ghana, respectfully, it is not like Ghana where the chances are that if NDC misbehave, UP can come and take over.
Oh no, it's not.
Or NDC can come and NDP can come and take over. Over there, ANC is virtually South Africa.
No, until this election.
Until this election, it has eroded. If you follow polling,
yes,
I speak to South African journalists. You can Google me.
ANC,
I speak to journalists in South Africa, and I'm telling you, ANC came from 90% to nearly 52%.
Yes, they have lost that goodwill that they had when Mandela, Thabo Mbeki, they were there. Zuma came to destroy ANC virtually. Jacob Zuma came to destroy ANC virtually. But the point I am driving at is that, in as much as I disagree with the approach of the South African citizens by going this low and attack their own colleagues, brothers and friends like we Africans, that one, it is a no. Because as a matter of fact, even in the almighty America, that they have a proper checks and balances in place, are they still not having people that they cannot track them? They are in America. They came through the airport. They have all the database system in America, genuine firewall protected databases, but yet still people are in there. They came with B1, B2 visas, and they refuse to go back to their countries. So the conversation should be the Organization of Africa. Is it what they call it? ECOWAS? No, not ECOWAS.
AU. African Union.
What is the role of African Union in this matter? Because the argument is that we are trying to tell the world that we are a continent, one continent. Therefore, everybody should be allowed freely to move within the continent without any restriction. Isn't that the case?
Beautiful, yes.
But it is the AU that we must hold them accountable.
Which the president of Ghana has done.
If the South Africans themselves are not wise enough to understand that you need to put in mechanisms in place. And don't forget, as for blue collar jobs, every country is struggling with getting people to do all the blue collar jobs. When you talk about white collar jobs, that one they know are recruiting temporary foreign workers, but the emphasis mainly is on blue collar jobs. The janitor, health assistants and all those things, but they are not recruiting them as much as they are recruiting the securities and the janitors and all this, because their own citizens are not ready to go and do janitorial works. Are you getting my point? So if you go to South Africa today and you are doing blue collar jobs, for that one they may not have any problem with you. But if you are taking their jobs like supervision works, you are taking their jobs like data entry works, you are taking their white collar jobs and they feel threatened, they may rebel. And it is the rebellion activity that some of the citizens are engaged in. It is absolute rebellion. It is rebellion. So South Africa themselves, the question that AU need to find out from us, do they have any punitive mechanisms in place? That if you are a South African citizen and we are caught, for instance, the video you showed with that gentleman using that guy as a punching bag, if he's arrested, what punishment can be meted out to him? Or he'll be left off the hook to go? So we need to make sure that we create that impression as Africans to protect our individual rights when we are in any other jurisdiction. That's why I say that even if you come to Ghana, but you know the funny truth, go to South Africa and see most of the drug barons, most of the drug barons in South Africa, they are Nigerians. Most of the drug barons in South Africa, they are Nigerians. Nigerians are virtually taking over South Africa. And sometimes maybe we are not in their shoes. That is sometimes how perhaps we may think that they are going overboard. But assuming perhaps maybe we too are in their shoes, and you wake up every day in Ghana and some other foreign national, they have come to your country, they are bringing the cocaine, they are bringing the heroin, they are bringing all the things that will come and destroy your people, what would you do? But we just have to encourage them that they shouldn't take the law into their own hands. But we should rather look forward to the African Union speaking truth to power and letting South Africa know that yes, we agree that you are protecting your territorial integrity, you are protecting the right of your citizens, protecting the jobs of your citizens, but the approach is barbaric and uncivilized. If you want all Ghanaians who are not documented in South Africa to go back to their country Ghana, and you have proper mechanism or proper structures put in place for them to be brought to Ghana, like we said about how we move the Nigerian back to Niger, flying them, if that approach is what they are using, who will be complaining? Because they have every right to bus us back to Ghana if we think that they are right to do that. They have every right to bus us back. But the approach that they will deploy in busing us back is what we need to question. But if it is just about they fighting for what they think they believe in as their right to protect what they legitimately, for that one I don't want to begrudge them for that. But I will still bring the conversation home that, for instance, this 138 that the other government is financing them to come back to Ghana, at what cost? At what cost? And if they come back to Ghana, what are you doing to put them into employability skills, or what are you doing to put them into proper businesses? It is only one that Ibrahim Mahama has sorted out, The 138 that is coming, is Ibrahim Muhammad going to sort them out, or is the government of Ghana that is going to sort them out? We need to ask, and we need to know, so that we don't just make the argument and lay all the blame and heap it on the South Africans. Yes, it is right, but ourselves, what are we doing to mitigate it? It is very cardinal. We ask this question.
Right. Thank you very much. Okay. Very interesting perspectives here on the national agenda relative to this particular matter. A few concurrence and then disagreements here.
That, it's a debate.
So let me
I'm here with a prof. So
when I was in South Africa, normally when I travel, I like to travel in a bus.
When I get into a country, just few of them, like South Africa, I moved from Ntabo Airport to Cape Town. But within Cape Town, I went to other places.
With the bus, at least you have
I want to
see.
In fact, when I went through Cape Town was very developed, like UK. In fact, most of the important areas I've seen in UK, the same Victoria, all those are all in South Africa, in Cape Town.
Yeah.
So you see Cape Town very nice, like, and the outlook looks like UK. I remember I asked one lady, a white lady, and she told me, "Oh, this is a province that is governed by the whites."
Yeah, Pretoria.
Pretoria is governed by the whites. Very neat, and they have the huge tunnels we can find, right? And it is well planned.
Yeah.
Where they could not move the people, they wall them. In the nights, the whole city is lightened. I moved to another state I don't want to mention. I felt sad, very, very sad, and they are governed by the blacks. I get what I'm trying to say. And even when you get to Pretoria, they want to make sure they check where you are going. Look, even when you pick an Uber, you go for a short distance, you will see police. So they run a governance system so superior, like a system on its own within South Africa. And so for my issue has to do with the fact that Ghana has an agreement with the South African government where we have 180 days to stay in South Africa. You cannot prevent anyone from until that thing is cancelled. So you get up, you get your flight ticket, you jump onto your flight, you go to South Africa, no one can stop you.
I think it's 30 days.
No, you want 80.
180 days, 6 months.
No, is it 180 days? No, 6 months. 3 months.
No, it's 6 months. 90 days is 3 months.
90 days, right?
Yeah.
I think it's 180 days. I think it's 180 days.
I know it's not.
It's either 90 or 180 because I just went there. I read their website before I went there.
I know for currently,
but you
check issue 6 months visa initially.
No, this one is not visa.
But when they put the waiver, the maximum stay.
It's 180
days.
Without the visa.
Without the visa, it's 30 days.
Please let your producer check for us. But what I'm saying is that you have, as long as I can go to South Africa, and that I have the option to go there with a visa, it means that there has been an existing law that protects me as a citizen of Ghana and their citizens. I get me. And so when people come in there, and when you just go there, it's not just that you just go and you enter. Definitely, they even ask questions. They ask me question. Okay, what are you coming to do? How long are you going to stay? When are you leaving? Then they stamp for you. Right, and they take your passport and scan through. So already it tells you that they have data of you. I getting it. And so that agreement even nullifies the fact that people don't have access to go there. Their citizens must think that way because their government entered into that kind of agreement with our government.
Yeah.
The same way I have South African. I speak to journalists in South Africa. In fact, last week I spoke to a journalist from South Africa.
It's 90 days.
I told you it's 90 days. So that journalist in South Africa, one even came to Ghana, stayed in Ghana for a very long time. He stayed in a hotel, enjoyed himself before he even had an interview with me on certain international issues and issues in South Africa. I get it. He told me that is one of the freest countries he has ever seen. He traveled globally than some of us. And he mentioned to me that even developed countries that he goes, Ghana is the only place you walk and no one will tell you bring your passport.
Yeah.
And in fact, when before we had the interview, he said, "Look, Jamal, I have never felt safe in any place like anytime I come to Ghana." And he just lives just close to your place here. And he works freely, he eats freely. He invited another colleague journalist who also came the same way. Why are we hospitable? In fact, those days that Ghanaians talked about foreigners taking their jobs. It is because the structural nature of our systems and the rate of unemployment changed. And that is what governments must do. You must monitor economic indicators, monitor growth polls that leads to development, and change the system. And so when they began to do that, and Ghanaians became very apt and rapt, and they were talking about Nigerians, it was not that they left. It is that the structure of the Ghanaian economy had to change. So for me, what we must begin to talk about is that definitely Ghana has issues. And Ghanaian issues will not start today, and it will not end today. Ghanaian issues are polarized, and issues that come for a very long time. That we the citizens don't even demand accountability. We the citizens don't even want good things. And I tell you, I went to Canada and I was doing some presentation on the gig economy of Canada and that of the informal sector of Ghana. I raised a point which I don't want to raise here, and everybody in the room was looking at me. When I began to explain, and I said, look, people are too comfortable, my brother. People sit down and say they don't have jobs to do. Are you okay? But the nature of the job within their jurisdiction, they cannot do it. And you know that their ability to move to another location and can also cause poverty. I hope you know that. If you are here and you do not have that ability to move to another place where you can find job, it also does that. So if you are locationally, you are living at Bono, as we are talking about, and I live in Koforidua, we have only one industry in Koforidua, right? That industry can take up to 150 people. But our politicians should think through and say that when you are solving societal problem, you are solving your own problem. That is all right. But the matter beforehand here is that how will South Africa control their teeming youth who come and they don't even go to school? They grow up, no job, no employability, fit in the system, and the question is that how do I survive? And survival leads them to do certain things. Now, the governments of South Africa must begin to change the dynamics of the economies they have in order, because one, there are no jobs availability in South Africa, and the kind of jobs that are there, they will be sitting here as we are sitting, and that job is that they won't go for it. The people who come as foreigners go do those jobs. You go to any bar, aside maybe one of them has a bar, you will see a bartender being in South Africa. It is the Ghanaians that issue, the Nigerians you are seeing there. The drug trades that you are talking about, it is everywhere, even in Ghana. Even in Ghana, we have foreigners who come to Ghana, and what they only know doing is prostitution and drug sale. Is that not it? But you know one thing, I would want to say that our police system, apart from the few corrupt people in our Ghanaian police system, the police system in Ghana, police system is doing very well. And that is how come our security level is heightened, and journalists can easily find information. Do you know in South Africa, they don't easily report crime. But every minute people are dying. But in Ghana here, the kind of, we call it mechanical solidarity, the kind of mechanical solidarity that we have, build our society in such a way that even when you are a stranger, you arrive, they will know you are a stranger. When you come in the next day, you are doing, unless the person goes to where the crime den is. So the government of South Africa must take a proactive measure, one, to provide job for its people. He cannot complain as a president. He had the mantle of the people to provide job for them. In fact, and that is why I will recommend that people should begin to punish government for not doing what is expected of them. The government has no, in fact, his letter, when I read the letter, I was laughing in my head. I said, so if you say that they are taking the jobs of your people, what do you mean? Couldn't you have used your state apparatus to say, and as it is, look, even Canada, in 2014 I was in Canada, 2019 I was also in Canada. In Canada, in 2014, do you know that Canada was virtually begging people to come and beg bread?
Yeah.
Janitorial services was even non-existent because people were not doing it. Are you okay? And at that time, it was only $5 per hour. I remember I was with people, I was schooling, I went with people. Those people who were Ghanaians, and I met them, and they were not schooling, they were working. Some of them were saying they would do that job. And where I was staying, every day you see the shop owners bring adverts. And when Canada had their open system, there are a lot of immigrants coming in. The system, in terms of its current capability, became choked, and everybody started doing those jobs. So I understand that Canada 2 years back had to reject visas, including even my own visa. Please, I get it. The system. So when you run in an economic system, you first all have to think for now and into the future. And even Canada, while they were opening up the state, they forgot the carrying capacity. The state has a carrying capacity. And if the country gets to the fullest that it can contain, the rest will create problem for all of us. That is what is happening in South Africa. And even before then, already they have poor borders. If you go to South Africa and their neighbors, okay, they don't have, their border is not like some of us, because we are far from them. Their neighbors easily walk in and walk out, right? But at their enclaves, their level of development is a bit advanced than their neighbors. What can they also do? Because they have that union of these southern African nations. Can they serve as a buffer and at the same time speak to each other to have some common growth, right? If it is like we have this common growth pattern, so the citizens from here will not move to this place. But even with that, the GDP of South Africa is influenced to a larger extent by the immigrants who come in there. And I'm telling you, if you look at their unemployment level, it's about 30-35%. And this 35% is very high. This 35% are those people of which about 18% are unemployable. And so the system has to retool. And if the systems are supposed to be retooled, then the system would have to then begin to map up that if I have this category of people, this is the kind of industry I have to set up. In Ghana, for example, we are having a different form of unemployment in that the people are employable. Please, are you getting me? The people in Ghana are employable. In fact, in a year we train more than 60,000 graduates. In a year, every year, more than 60,000 graduates, for which there are non-existent industries for them. In South Africa, the people who are making noise and crying do not have employability. And so it is up to the state to now not talk about people taking their jobs, but to now recognize the fact that these are the caliber of people that we are having. This is the kind of job that they are even interested. You can even create a job and the people are not interested to fit in. And this is the exit plan in case they are not there. So you could even use the immigrants to work for you, right? Is that not it? Some of your people who do not have skill, you retrain them. Then two, some of your people who are eager to work, you train them in a soft skill so that they can fit into the system. What happens to IT jobs? And so for me, this is a total failure on African Union and ECOWAS, because these issues in terms of, let's say, we call it a skill mismatch, we have lived with skills mismatch for a very long period of time. Nobody talks about it. It is only in Ghana. Now in Ghana, you see that technical universities and other universities have now begun to now think of what are the programs that will do that is a need or a special need for our country. I think Ghana, we have started doing that for since about 10 years now. And they now have what we call qualification framework and all of this. But in South Africa, they have the same qualification framework. But the inhabitants who are on the road, if you are educated, will be holding a machete in the streets, chasing somebody.
No.
Why will you do that? If you are educated and you have finished school and you have qualification, and that can fetch you a job, won't you rather be sitting using your time to write CVs and write application letters? But there are jobs, are you okay? But people cannot fit in. And foreigners who live here, we meet my Ghanaians there. We see him, he was in Ghana here. Some even have regretted. I'm telling you, some of our people, Mr. Suma, some of our people, you find there, someone has finished school here. I can use one of my mates as an example. We finished first degree in UCC together about 2 decades ago. He was in Ghana, he went to South Africa, he tried going to do masters, and when you are in Ghana, you're going to pay for master. It's very expensive. He did, he couldn't, he had to do education, and he was teaching. Finally, he has relocated back to UK. Because he told me, my brother, if I were in Ghana, and I look at some of our colleagues who were privileged to get teaching job, because he was teaching I was teaching the same secondary school with him, and he left.
And he left.
We were in the same secondary school teaching. And when he left, and I continued staying in the secondary school till I moved, some of our mates who stayed there, they are doing better than him. And I'm telling him, after 15 years, he had to move out of South Africa to UK. Recently, I spoke with him and I asked him, so what happened? He gave me his narration. He said, look, anytime I come home and I see you people, I become envious. So for me, I agree with you, Mr. Suwada. Let's make Ghana better off. Because every day I ask my student, I don't want to, is this how we are going to live and die? We need better services. We need better road infrastructure. We need better railways. We need better, good, stable electricity. We need increase in availability of foodstuff and reduction in prices of foodstuff, as we can see. We need all of those things. But the question is, are politicians genuinely looking to serve the interests of people in the next few years? in the next years ahead. These are we can add that to the conversation. But let's condemn these South Africans with the strongest term that it deserves. And that, look, without the foreigners, South Africa will collapse. 15% of businesses are owned by foreigners and immigrants.
That's huge.
And it gives them not less than 1 trillion that you're talking about. Then why would we lie to ourselves? The very people you are trying to provide for in terms of shelving them and thinking that they are holding you to power. Because remember, the president is almost losing his position. Because of the Watergate scandal.
Yeah.
He's actually losing his position.
Yeah, the Watergate
yesterday he reiterated that he's not going to resign.
Yeah. Because
he is playing the people. We don't care who resigned, who said that. But the question is that he should take a statesmanship as they want to do. We are Ghanaians. Our people do not deserve what they are going through. The Nigerians do not deserve what they are going through. The Malians don't deserve what they are going through. For Africa is Africa. Let's begin to think through and then think about, why do we have AFTA in Ghana? Is it not the same common trade that we're talking about?
Yeah.
We have, look, I'm telling you, when you go to some part in Eastern region, some part in Northern region, in Greater Accra here, we have many Nigerian ladies who are here and they are doing only prostitution.
Yeah.
We have many Nigerian guys, my brother, they are here. They are doing certain jobs that are inimical, but when they are in their country, they won't do it.
Yeah.
But do I support that we should bust them out of Ghana? No. We should have a way to have our system. Look, if you come to Ghana, we should know who you are, even when you come through the border. If we find a way, even Ghanaians, can't we encourage Ghanaians, even themselves, to identify themselves as Ghanaians? Common ID card, voter, what they call national ID card, some of our Ghanaians don't have.
Yeah.
Right? So today, if Ghana says that if you don't have Ghana card, you cannot survive in Ghana, when they begin to make noise, won't it turn to a political things? But this is a time, Ghana, and if you don't develop data and science, you can never manage the country. So for me, as part of moving from where Mr. Suma is talking about, can we move forward and begin to think through how we can conscientize our people, those who are really Ghanaians? Let's keep data on them when they are traveling. And when you come, when you travel and come through Ghana, the last I fought with somebody, and when I was leaving Ghana, they didn't ask me that question. But if you are a British citizen, you are an American citizen, and you are leaving America and you are going to any jurisdiction, do you know that the first of all is the embassy? Before you even get to the town that you are going or the country you are going, do you know they'll send your information to the embassy? And that when there is anything, one life, America will bring a flight to pick that person.
Yeah.
Because he pays tax to the government. So for me, it is high time we condemn these people in the strongest time that we can give them. And we should let them know, look, nobody can live in isolation. When you live alone in your community, in your compound, why do you dance in your room? Why do you sing? Loneliness will kill them.
Yeah.
So they should stop those things. If they want people to live genuinely, the system should target undocumented citizens, but not fight them. Take them through court system and take them out of the country.
You see, my point is that in as much as I believe in everything that Prof has said, I think he spoke to reinforce some of the things that I was alluding to. But you see, nobody prevents anybody from operating in any other jurisdiction. You know, we have categorization of migrants. There's a migrant that when they come to your country, they are coming for the good purpose of it. They are bringing you the skills, they are bringing you all the knowledge that is required. They come to, they hold themselves in a very orderly manner. They adhere to the rules and regulation of everywhere they've gone to. So when he used the classical example of his a German friend who is based in South Africa, obviously that German friend based in South Africa, the dynamics are obviously different. And for whatever purpose for which that person is in South Africa, he or she is doing things genuinely and according to law, and ensuring that he or she does not flout any regulation established by South Africa. But South Africa, too, you know, because they were coming from the apartheid system, you know, mindset. People who virtually were fighting among themselves, killing each other, doing so many unnecessary things, and they waged a war against the whites were also killing them. So at some point, South Africa became a conspired environment where even their own blacks were betraying their own other fellow blacks. So you see, it is about mindset. The South African mindset is not like that of Ghanaians' mindset. Ghana, we've been brought up in such a way that you need to be very hospitable. That is why anybody who comes to Ghana, they always give us that accolade that when you come to Ghana, the Ghanaians are very hospitable. Because obviously, we have never had any civil war. We've never had to fight the white through gun before they left. As for Ghana, the white living there, the mosquito helped Kwame Nkrumah a lot. Because they never liked this place in the first place. They were only interested in your mirrors. That's why they never did anything. Prof is here. You realize that all the people who came from Charles McCarthy to Governor Hall to Hughes and Co. It is only Gordonsberg who attempted to build the Takoradi Port, who built the Achimota School, who built Kolebu, who did some few things. Apart from Gordonsberg, who did anything for us? Zero. They didn't do anything. They were only interested in exploiting us and taking everything away from us. So when Kwame Nkrumah and Co realized that, look, these guys, they were only taking us for granted, they did everything possible to get them out. And obviously, like I said, our own doing, our own environment contributed to the fact that they realized that, look, let us pack our bag and baggages and leave Ghana for them. But the key point that has to be addressed is that if you have a country where you have refused to use what we call the directive principles of state policy, today, the reason why they are bringing in the foreigners from South Africa, they will tell you that Article 34 of the Constitution, which talk about the directive principles of state policy, is upon which they are standing to make sure that every right of Ghanaians are protected both home and abroad. For which reason they feel that it is important they bring our citizens back home, standing on the same leg of the Constitution. And the same leg of the Constitution tells you, from the economic management, from governance, to politics, to health, to education, to everything, the Constitution has a vision for this country. For which reason they established the National Development Planning Commission. As we speak today, what is the role of the National Development Planning Commission in the development agenda of this country? Every political party come and give you a plethora of promises that I'll do A, I'll do B, I'll do C. When given the opportunity, sometimes they even veer away from what they promise you. For instance, we are not here to talk about NDC, NPP. Didn't NDC play a trump card of creating a 24-hour economy in this country, giving us jobs? Today, they are talking about building 24-hour economy markets. Who goes to sell in a market for 24 hours? It is about demand and supply. After constructing the market, how are you going to stimulate demand? How are you going to stimulate supply for that market that you are building in Sambush to be functional? So, if we are not careful enough, we will shy away from blaming our leaders and virtually heap the blame on somebody else. Don't forget, South Africa, their economy is the biggest in Africa. Isn't that the case? The biggest GDP in Africa is South Africa. Now, Doc or Prof alluded to the fact that there are some states in provinces in South Africa, the whites develop it to their own standards because they wanted to stay there in perpetuity. For which reason, the area left for the blacks, they refuse to develop it. So, now that this issue is counting us back of xenophobic attack for which Ghanaian citizens have been caught in this inferno, the only thing I will do is that I will have to admonish the Ghanaian government that do the right thing that will prevent your citizens from running helter-skelter everywhere seeking greener pastures, because we have what it takes to create that ambient environment for the citizens to be able to be good enough. Now, disposable income in Ghana, it is nothing to write home about. Police disposable income is nothing to write home about. Teacher disposable income is nothing to write home about. Nurses, doctors, everybody is complaining because at the end of the day, we are not creating that ambient environment for them to live on their mega salaries that they are receiving. So, in order not to belabor this point, we just have to admonish government. You see, when we are admonishing government, at the same time, then you admonish the citizens. Now look, there is nothing so much in South Africa There is nothing in there so much. So instead of you go to South Africa and get humiliated and experience all this kind of unnecessary attacks on your life, why don't you stay home? Because when you stay home, and home is not as good as South Africa may be, at the end of the day, nobody can do what? Can jeopardize your safety or play on your emotional intelligence. But that gentleman that was accosted in South Africa, they were asking him about his document, asking him what you were doing here. As even he himself, when he watched that video, was he able to respond adequately as to what he was doing in South Africa?
No, but even under those pressures, Mr. Suma, kindly.
You have not seen
under those pressures, you can't.
I am saying that, for instance, Prof, let's say Prof found himself in that situation and he is there. Do you think he could have been? You know, I'm a professor. He wasn't beaten. The third gentleman wasn't beaten. He was questioned by a lady. That their lady is it what Miss something.
She's the one leading. She's the one. This person should be arrested.
Should
be arrested.
Such characters have to be brought to book in South Africa. But the question I'm asking is that is their own, apart from Julius Malema, who is criticizing them, who is attacking their own colleagues and speaking truth to power, no other prominent figure in South Africa is doing so. So it will look like it is a systemic failure. The entire architecture of the South African system is developed in such a way that they should be anti-foreigners, because most of them are not even accusing their own fellow citizens to hold a gun, stop what you are doing. It is not good. It will put us in the bad limelight in the global perspective. But they have refused to do so. That is why some few individuals fall value. We are being empowered because many people who are supposed to chastise us, bastardize us, or reprimand us for doing this barbaric act, they are not speaking. So aren't they more empowered to misbehave? But the ball must be brought. No, I said the ball. The attention of the African Union has to be brought into this matter. It is they who have to make sure that South Africa understand that they find themselves in a league of nations or in a league of countries that belongs to one particular continent, and they are part of this continent. Therefore, they should not be doing these barbaric activities towards one another. But in as much as we want them to do the right thing, let us also advise every foreign national living in any other country to make sure that if you are there for just 60 days or 90 days, after your stay, come back home. Why don't you want to come back home? What is preventing you from coming back home?
So right now
you just mentioned something in South Africa. People go there, and I'm even saying the urge to travel. We have some people who like to do that, and because they have that urge to travel, you cannot even tell them they should not travel. You mentioned Dubai. The same 2019, I traveled to Dubai, and I went there. I went to meet. It was a Ghanaian community. Even some of them were doing bad things, but the state was able to confine them to a level that they could not escalate it. I get in it. So we need to let them get you, and you don't have document as expected. They should sack you. Is that not it? It's just a matter of documenting all those people, put them, maybe go to court, get them all done through the court system, send them to our Ghana, embassy, and they will take them back to Ghana. And I'm telling you, if they begin to hear that this one went and came back, that one went, they will not go. But as a country, the government doesn't even have the right to prevent people from traveling.
No.
I get in it. That is one. Two, you as a state providing all the goodies that makes your people habitable still doesn't mean that they will not leave.
No.
They'll still go.
No.
What we should be thinking about is that let human beings be humans. If you think that the person or this person is doing certain things which mar the kind of what you would have required, find a way and use the legal system, get the person out. Still, I've been telling, when you come to, even now, landlords in certain jurisdictions would prefer to give their house to a Nigerian than to a Ghanaian.
Oh yeah, it's a right knowledge.
You understand? Do you know why? Because they pay.
Yeah.
they pay higher.
Yeah,
Without
they
asking for
can even pay for 3 years, 4 years.
And they will not even do, they will leave it and go.
Yeah.
So they would rather prefer to have those things. But the question is, what is the role of land control?
Yeah, rent
control.
Yeah.
So these are the systemic failures that we are talking about. And to add to that, to finalize what I want to say, if government of Ghana doesn't take this state apparatus serious and ensure that this state apparatus work, you can create good, congenial, good atmosphere for your people. Other people will erode the gains. Because when they come and the system is weak, they deploy a very swift system and bring people. We have Nigerians bringing Nigerians for prostitution. One bus, 30.
Yeah, that's true.
We had one student who was in one of the universities, private universities I won't mention. When she came here, she rented one room and was doing a SIM board fraud. They got her, we didn't hear what happened to the case. And she made millions of dollars. Just a girl.
Yeah.
What about those who do that? So if the state is very good at tracking landlords, tracking people, and they make sure that whoever is renting your house, you must declare before you give your house. And we have people who go to check. Are you getting it? Once now, I'm telling you, the state will be good. Why is the UK good? Why is it the highly monetized economy you can find? Because in UK, when even you go to rent, it goes into a system. And it's not that they are monitoring the system, but they don't care about some of the things you do. You have to pay, you have to pay. So I am pleading that whilst we want to make sure and pressurize our governments to do the right thing, we should also let African leaders know that by virtue of the neighborliness as a living that we have, they will need to treat people as humane as possible.
As possible, right. Thank you so much. My time is up. I need to go. It beggars belief that, you know, when some of these things happen, I become very much surprised because most of these people who do these things, who engage in these things, some of these countries have been there before. So for instance, you look at apartheid rule, and South Africa was under apartheid rule for many years, you know, until 1994. And it took the efforts of some countries like Ghana and other African countries to ensure that came to an end. You look at what is happening in the Gaza Strip between Israel and then Palestine. Israel had to suffer, you know, the Holocaust. And beggars believe that the people who suffered it are now inflicting that, you know, on some other group. I'm appealing to the South African community, if they are watching. We are all one people. If you feel that, you know, somebody is in your country illegally, go through the proper channel. I'm sure that you can report them, you know, to the authorities. The authorities will take it from there. Go check if the person truly has flouted the law and is illegally residing in South Africa. That person, you know, would be repatriated. Marching on the streets and locking up shops and beating people and taking away their property is not the way of civility. That is the way of, I mean, the jungle. That is not how human beings, you know, behave. That's how, I mean, excuse my French, that's how animals behave. And we wouldn't want human beings behaving like that to a fellow human being. I'm hoping that the South African President, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, would also take the bull by the horns and ensure that systems work in his country. People who flout the law should be punished. And also strengthen your own system so that when somebody is in your country illegally, you can see from the onset and make sure that the person is, you know, returned to their country, whether it is Ghana or Malawi or Zimbabwe or Rwanda or wherever. We do not mind. But once the person is there illegally, the rights